Hey everyone, this is Elena with Glass Factory, and I'm here with Chrissy Costanza of Against the Current. Hey, how are you
How's
doing?
it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Cool. Well, could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
So I am 25. I've been the singer of Against the Current for 10 years now because we started the band together when we were 15. I'm a full-time musician, obviously, but also full-time gamer. I love video games, and I spend most of my time either writing music or playing games, and
What
that's
vi-
that's pretty much it.
what video games do you play?
I like a lot of MOBAs or fantasy RPGs. So League of
Okay.
Legends has been, the longest running game in my life. But also I've been playing a lot of single player fantasy RPGs lately, just for fun, like on console. I'm mostly a PC gamer, but yeah, just trying something new.
Where are you currently located?
I'm in LA. I moved here
Okay.
last year mid-pandemic,
Oh wow. Yeah,
which was a fun one.
that must have been. Could you describe what that was like a little bit? Because it just sounds nuts moving in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah, I think you approach the move everything you kind of view through the lens of just utility. You need to
Mhm.
just get things that you need and that have use, and you're not as worried about decorating or cute things. And I always thought like, oh, if I move out to LA, I'll get an apartment, I'll make it really cute. And when I had first moved here, that was just not the case whatsoever. It was just find what you can, like see if you can get some cleaning supplies or something, and a bed even. I actually moved here before I had my apartment,
Mhm.
so I just came out with 2 suitcases and I stayed in a hotel for a couple of days. And so when I did finally find my apartment, I had to like see if I could get a mattress like ASAP. Sometimes those things take weeks. So everything
Yeah.
I was doing was just kind of like, what can I get as soon as possible so I can just live?
Yeah, that's nuts.
Mhm.
How do you feel you've adjusted? What do you like about LA so far?
Now, I mean, now I love it. A lot of my friends were already out here. So being in the
Mhm.
music industry, obviously there's a huge population of us out here, and the gaming as well. So it's
Yeah.
been nice now that things are opening up again to actually just be around when my friends are like, hey, there's this thing tonight, or do you want to go get lunch tomorrow? And not be like, well, I'm on the other side of the country.
Yeah, that would be difficult, especially mid-pandemic to
Yeah.
do all that. Did you gather with people in the pandemic, of course, safely, or were you still
So I
doing
was
live sessions?
working in studio actually. So I had to go in person to work like almost every day. I was hosting a gaming show while we were recording. All of the recording for our EP was actually happening remotely, but the show that I was hosting was live in studio. So I would go in every single day. So it was tons and tons and tons of COVID testing, masks plus face shields,
Hmm.
6 feet distances, COVID officers everywhere. It was really quite the experience.
Yeah, it feels like the Twilight Zone a bit.
It was, yeah, a bit of
Yeah.
that alternate reality type feeling.
Yeah, and I've personally felt like I don't that we haven't gotten out of it still. So,
Mhm.
yeah, would you say the same thing with like how weird it's feeling?
Yeah, I think for us in terms of like we have shows coming up in
Mhm.
September for the first
Okay.
time in 2 years, which is really exciting. But there's just a whole different set of things to think about when it comes to shows. Do you require proof of vaccination or proof of a negative COVID
Right.
test? Like, how do you enforce like mask wearing, or do you not enforce it? Is it kind of just people's level of comfort? How do meet and greets happen? Do you meet people after the show? That's a big part of club shows, is usually the artist hanging out after the show and meeting people. So there's just a whole different set of things that need to be addressed. And I've seen so many different artists take so many different lanes in how they're handling things, so it's a bit confusing, and you want to do what's right for everybody, and unfortunately it doesn't feel like there's a one size fits all solution. So just kind of trying to make a call based on your best judgment, and also of course encouraging fans just to do what they're comfortable with. If they're not comfortable with in-person shows yet, or they're immunocompromised, something along those lines, please don't come yet. Don't feel pressured to. There will be more
Right.
shows. So yeah, it's a whole, there's a different there's just a very different there's like a film over everything. Like it's all very exciting and sparkly, and really we're all super stoked, but there's just that like little bit of
Mhm.
film over the top of it.
Definitely. Yeah. Have you been doing like any live stream shows or anything like that?
We didn't do any live stream shows yet. We're still debating maybe streaming live from one of the in-person shows.
Mhm.
Um, I think what's difficult about the live stream shows is there's two routes and people do one or the other. The people that have done the pre-taped live stream shows are, I think, I've really liked because they're more of a production. It's more of like
Yeah.
an event. I really loved Lindsay Sterling's. It was a whole thing, and it was just really cool. And she'd like live Q&As after with her VIP and that kind of thing. And then there are people who do it truly live, and sometimes just the technical aspect of getting all of that broadcasted is so complicated that you can
Yeah.
end up with something really, really, really scuffed. Even if it's a great live band, it can still be like, whoa, because the mix could be crazy off, because mixing for broadcast is totally different than mixing for a venue. And
Mhm.
most of our front of house engineers are mixing for venues. They're not broadcast mixers. And it is just,
Yeah.
there's two different worlds, and there's so much with like you just streaming tech and everything. So it's kind of a logistical nightmare. So we're still kind of like, oh, what do we do here?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of venues that are coming up that are specially for live streams. I know that there's a spot in Nashville that does that. I think that that's what they specialize in. It's called Home.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
they're made for it.
that's been one of the coolest parts about the
Yeah.
pandemic, I think, is that in the midst of something so terrible, there's been a lot of innovation. And the music industry is not known for innovation.
Right.
In the music, of course, but in like the technologies
Mhm.
and the ways we do business, we are just not known for innovating at all. And so that's been really cool in the pandemic, is to
Yeah.
watch the music industry be forced to evolve in a lot of ways, and be forced to evolve, to adapt a lot of modern technology that previously I think a lot of the labels and like, the older suits in the industry would have like kind of like scoffed at.
Right.
And now I think those are things that will carry on post pandemic, where artists are realizing, hey, like we're going to do these release shows, right? When our album comes out. But what if we could do a release show that broadcasts globally? Because if you play a show in a venue, you can only play in one venue in one night. You can't play all over the world. But if your album drops at midnight, what's stopping you the next night from playing a live broadcast show? So your first show live is literally to everyone in the world.
Yeah.
And that's been one of the coolest parts about the pandemic, in my opinion, for music, is it really lit a fire under the industry's ass.
Yeah, it definitely did. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
So could you tell us a little bit about the origin story as a band? I know you said you started it about 10 years ago. But yeah, just to familiarize everybody with what's going on.
So there's three of us: Dan, Will, me, Chrissy. Dan's guitar, Will's drums. Dan and Will actually grew up just like 2 streets over from each other, like walking distance from each other's house. So I think like they met in like 3rd grade or something. And Will, when Dan moved, to 2 streets over from Will, and Will at that time had already been playing drums and a couple other instruments, and he told Dan to pick up a guitar and let's start a band. And Dan did. He went, got a guitar, and they started bands. And they had been in several bands together since then. And then when we were 15, a mutual friend was like, hey, I know this girl, she's a singer. You guys don't have a singer right now. They were kind of between phases. You guys should connect. And we kind of like connected over MySpace, and then met in person at Bamboozle. I don't think it was Skate and Surf that year. I think it was like the year before it went back to Skate and Surf or something. And yeah, the rest is kind of history.
That's cool. Yeah. Who inspired you as a musician, and what were the songs that you learned to play as you were?
So when I was growing up, when I was like younger, I was really inspired by a lot of classic rock and like 80s pop, honestly. Like I loved Madonna. I used to sing like Cherish all the time, like dancing around in my parents' room. And then a lot of classic rock, because that's what my mom loved. And then my dad loved like a lot of the Italian classics and the crooners, like the Sinatras and the Frankie Vallis and the Dean Martins. So I grew up on a weird combination of things. And then I kind of found my way into like 90s rock, and 90s rock is where I was really inspired. And then coming out of that, one of the first artists that really, really spoke to me on like a very, very deep emotional level was actually the Foo Fighters and Dave Grohl, because the way that Dave can say something so simply, but it be so powerful and eloquent was always really incredible to me as a lyricist. That's something that it's just one of those skills that I think it is a skill that you can hone it, but there is something innate there as well. For example, like the song Best of You is one of my favorite songs of all time. And just that lyric is someone getting the best of you is so just poignant, and it's so, but it's so simple, and you're just like, how could something so simple be so beautiful? And that's something that I've always wanted to capture, but it's so elusive and so difficult because I feel like you try and write something simple and it's just simple for the sake of being simple, and it's not anything else. But when he would write things like that, they would just have so many layers to them. So I was always really inspired by Dave Grohl. But yeah, I grew up on so many things, so it's hard to pick one.
Yeah, and that's great though, because like I think it's hard to pick one, especially with music, because you're right, there is so much that you can get from like little bits of one thing from one artist, and then just find your perfect mix of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's always it's not my favorite thing when I hear like new artists or bands that are complete like carbon copies of an existing artist. Like it's just it's I love seeing artists take something from that artist that inspires them, but then creating it in a new way. And that to me is really inspiring, because music is always recycled. It's always reused. We're always inspired by those who have come before us or those who are happening at the same time as us. You know, is anything truly original? Probably not at this point. Like, you know, there's only so many chords and so many ways to put them together. But it's just interesting when you see someone take something and create it to be their own in a new way. So yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of watching new artists come up too.
Yeah, that's awesome. How do you think the pandemic has impacted your creativity as a musician?
It's been interesting. I think it's actually been really a really great thing for Dan and Will specifically, because for the first time they had so much freedom and flexible timelines in terms of producing the songs. So I would generally, the way most of the songs went in this EP would be that I would start writing it with someone, whether it be a producer or a writer, just be the two of us, and we would kind of just make the skeletal structure of the song, mostly, you know, the lyrics and the vocals with a little bit underneath. Sometimes Will would send us a track first, sometimes we'd just go over a couple chords, whatever, and then the guys would build around that and build the rest of the song and create the rest of the song. And normally when we were pre-pandemic, when we did our records, it was like a song a day. It's front to back, 12-hour days, sometimes 14 to 16 hours. And you're kind of recording most of the song. You're getting most of it done that day. There's not time to like sit on it, marinate on it, rewrite it. This time we had all the time in the world. And I definitely rewrote a lot of lyrics. There's a lot of songs that saw transformation after transformation after transformation vocally, but the same thing happened in the music as well. There were so many iterations of each of these songs. And that's been a really, really empowering experience, because I think there's so many times that we write songs so quickly, release them, and then play them for a year on tour, only to be like, damn, I wish I like thought of it this way. I wish I thought like about trying this on it, or, you know, this would have made it that much better, or like adding this little thing would have made the chorus vocal pop. And we actually had time to sit with the songs and play them over and over and actually think about those things this time, which was really cool.
That's cool. Would you ever think of performing your songs differently, like your older songs differently in the future because of that?
Yeah, I mean, we do, which is why this experience was so great. There are songs like Wasteland that are more on the poppier side, that when we play live, we play like a heavy rock song. So and that was kind of part of our mentality going into this EP, is let's keep in mind live when we're writing the songs. And there are two schools of thought. Some artists don't think that's valuable, and it really also is genre dependent. Some artists don't really think about the live show. They're like, I'll get to the live after I create the song, but if I think about live while creating the song, it'll limit me. And that's a fair argument. This time we were like, we have been transforming songs so much for live. We've been adapting them so much that it's actually like inefficient for us, and it's a lot of work. Why don't we think about the live show while we're writing the song, and kind of have that vision in our head. And yeah, there's always going to be things that you're going to have in the tracks. You can't have like, 100 people on the stage as much as we would want to. But that really helped us, this record, is thinking about the live show while we were creating each song.
That's cool. And that would be the genre change then from this EP to from the previous. That's the reason why you guys did the genre change, is just for the live, or were there other reasons?
And just because that's who we are as a band. We kind of grew up a rock band, and then we, from a lot of pressure from outside and inside sources, we went the pop route, and there was definitely a bunch of that, like, oh, you got to have the radio song going on, and we were kind of like, we don't really care. Also, radio is not really what it was. Right. So we were just like, all right, sure, we'll try it, and we did it. We tried it, and it wasn't for us. I love Past Lives. I love the record. There's a lot that I love about it. But it was time for us to, kind of take it into our own hands and do just what we genuinely wanted to do.
Cool. That's awesome. It's really cool to hear. And you guys are just expanding creatively. And that's something that I've noticed in this EP compared to the last one. It was really cool to listen to.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Speaking on the new EP, there was just a lot of really cool, like, heavier themes that I know you guys have touched on in previous works, but it seemed to especially hit home with this one. Is there a reason, like, any concepts that came up that made that happen, or
I think it kind of goes back to us just having our hands on the EP more than anybody else. Like, we didn't have tons and tons and tons of external writers, and the label really took a hands-off approach. Management really took a hands-off approach. It was very much the three of us and a couple of other people that we let in, but the three of us were the ones that had our hands all over the EP. So no one else's experiences, like life experiences and feelings and emotions, kind of seeped their way into the lyrics. There were so many times where I would be writing with a top liner and they'd be amazing and super talented, but like, they were writing for themselves and writing their own experiences. And this, it was me, and just me speaking candidly and writing my own experiences. So it became very unfiltered. So, the glimmers of it and the glimpses of it that existed in the past were just kind of that being shrouded by a lot of other people having their hands on the song and having to put their own piece of themselves into the song, which is fine. But this time around, it's very, very genuine, and it's coming from one voice entirely, which my voice, in terms of the vocals, and Dan and Will's voice in terms of the music. So it's very just like the three of us, and that's it. Yeah,
I could definitely tell. And that made it really personal too. I think it made it easier for me to connect to right away too.
Yay, really cool. Thanks. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And I think, we spend a lot of time with like our fans. Like I stream a lot. I spend a lot of time on social media. I DM like a lot of them often. Like a lot of them have grown up with us. Mm-hmm. So like they know my voice. They know how I would say things, and like how I feel without just writing a song. Some artists you only know through their songs. I think we have a very different relationship with our fans. We are very, very close with them. And for me, like streaming and doing that kind of thing is like, I'm constantly interacting with them live and like candidly. It's not through all these like filtered channels. So I think for them, they really notice that more than anyone else, because they already know me so well. And so for them, it was just like, yes, this is Chrissy speaking. Like, it's not someone else speaking and like dressing up her words and making it into this and that. And I think that's just been one of the reasons that we've bonded so much with our fan base over this EP.
Yeah, and that's really special. How do you think they've responded really well to this EP so far?
Yeah, it's been amazing. I remember when we went to release that one, Save Us, we were like, hey, like, people are going to love this or they're going to hate this. There's only two options here. It's not going to go down the middle. It's not going to go one way or the other. Hopefully they love it, but we don't know. And thankfully they loved it. And, they've kind of unanimously all agreed that it's their favorite piece of music that we've put out. So we're very, very grateful for that, because we feel similarly. And so it feels nice that everyone's kind of all on the same page. With Past Lives, it was like, yeah, this is good. But like, I love the old stuff. There, we haven't had any of that, but I love the old stuff comments. None of those have come up that I've seen, at least. So that's like very, very reassuring and affirming.
Yeah, I bet. I feel like as a musician, you dread like having somebody say, "Hey, I
Yeah.
like your older stuff better." It's just not something I would want to hear.
It's such a double-edged sword, because we all do it. Like, there are so many artists that I feel that way about, that I'm just like, yeah, I like the old stuff better. And I find myself like in a very very weird position when I do feel that way about an artist, because like I feel bad. I'm like, oh god, like as the artist, I hate hearing this, but like as a fan, it's just how I feel. Like, I can't fake how I feel. So for us, it was very empowering and exciting to feel that we could capture the spirit of all the old stuff, but in a new way that made them like it better than the old stuff. That's like, that's the ultimate goal, is to put out something that your fans like better than the old stuff.
Yeah, and that's definitely true, but it also shows that they really are growing and growing up with you guys.
Yeah, 100%. And that's another struggle, though, that a lot of artists have, is sometimes growing up means growing apart, which is sad. And so it's nice that it feels like, I think we felt a little bit of that growing apart on the last record, and this really feels like we all came back together. So it's very, very nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And you said you're going on tour in September. You're going to LA, correct?
Yes, we have 6 shows. So it's LA, Dallas, Brooklyn, Chicago, Boston, and Orlando.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So it starts in September.
Starts in September. I'm very excited. It's going to be our first time playing these shows live. So I'm also very nervous, because we haven't played live in like, it'll be almost 2 years at that point. It'll be like 21 months. So hopefully we all remember what to do when we get there. Singing in a studio is very different than singing on stage. So I'm hoping for the best, but I gotta start getting myself back into stage shape.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, have you ever like been to any live shows yet in LA, or are there very many going on?
I have. Okay, I went to a techno show, not by my own choice. It's like not my thing. So no shame if people who like techno. It's just like not. I like EDM, but like the techno, I was just like, it feels a little like, oops, oops. And I was just like, okay. It was a really fun experience though, but I haven't been to like a show yet, like a band or like an artist so I'm really excited. I need to see something with like drums and guitars.
Yeah, I know what you mean. As somebody who also grew up with rock music, it's just quite the same.
Totally different. Both are totally great, different energy. They're different. Cool.
Yeah. But yeah, the only reason I asked is just like, I don't know. What have you come out of like 2020 with? I guess like, and how are you using it to conquer the next year and this year?
I think 2020 was just super empowering for us. We were able to record this EP in our homes from 3 different places. Dan and Will were in Orlando. We had a producer in right outside of DC in Maryland, and I was in New Jersey and LA, and we did things that we didn't think that we were able to do. We started out this EP saying we don't know if we're going to be able to get it done in the quarantine, and at the time, in the beginning, no one knew how long it would last. No one thought it would be this long, and so to have come out the other side and not only just finished something, but created what we feel, our fans feel, our like friends and family feel, our label feels, that is our best body of work thus far, is just feel invincible. Feel like we could do anything then.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have any more questions for you, but congrats on your new album.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was super nice to meet you.
Yeah, it was really nice to meet you too. Thank you so much.